I've been playing RuneScape for a long time. Earlier this year, I decided to shake things up, starting a new journey on RuneScape's most limiting game mode, Ultimate Ironman. This account has forced me to approach the game in completely new ways, exercise patience that I never knew I had, and carefully plan and execute every step of my progression. Welcome to In the Bag. As you may be able to tell, this account is not fresh off Tutorial Island. We're standing in front of the elven city of Prifddinas. It's as good a place as any to discuss with you the last year of progression on this account and where we are going in the future of this series. Let's jump right in. So I started this account as sort of a side project to play at work and when I was bored, just to see how far I could get. I never really was interested in the Ultimate Iron Man game mode, so I thought I'd give it a shot before making judgments, and I was pretty hooked. For a lot of people, early game RuneScape is the best part. When you start a new account, especially an Iron account, doing everything from scratch and building from nothing is always very fun. I found this journey particularly alluring with Ultimate Iron Man, where it seemed like nothing was permanent, items were fleeting, yet very valuable. So I was hooked. I was AFKing stars at work. I got my mining up to 85, got a lot of gems for the early crafting grind, but it was difficult without teleports or a good foundation. So when I would get home from work, I would do some questing and try to progress the count meaningfully. And this is where the RuneScape Wiki's Ultimate Iron Guide to Prifddinas came in. I knew that Corrupted Gauntlet was a great goal for Iron accounts because in the process of earning access to Prifddinas, you would unlock a bunch of different skills, do a bunch of quests, and have a good foundation for your account. And so I set out on my goal to get to Prifddinas and start doing Corrupted Gauntlets. Like I said, I was fortunate enough to have time to play RuneScape while I was at work. So what I would do is either AFK stars or even do some combat training because I knew I would eventually want decent combat stats for the Corrupted Gauntlet grind when I got there. In addition to questing, one of the major things I did that the guide advised me to was Guardians of the Rift early. I did Guardians of the Rift until about 65 rune crafting, and this provided great money and runes for the account that I could use for teleporting as well as in Mage Training Arena just to get some early magic levels. This was a good transition for me because I had played Guardians of the Rift on my main before, but doing it on an Ultimate Iron Man presented some interesting challenges, so it kind of helped me dip my toe into the game mode a bit more. Additionally, through Guardians of the Rift, I unlocked the Ring of the Elements that I've had for about 9 months now, taking up an inventory slot and equipment slot. And the reason I got this was for construction. I knew I would have to get construction to level 70, and the way that you are meant to do this on an Ultimate Iron Man is by cutting oak logs at the lumber yard and turning them into planks and doing mahogany home contracts. So this Ring of the Elements, I've had it for a long time. I'm kind of resentful at its presence, but it has helped me a lot, providing great teleports to both the sawmill as well as like the air altar and fire altar. All around a pretty helpful ring, even though it takes up a permanent inventory slot. So after completing Guardians of the Rift, when I had time to actively play, I would do things like train construction. I picked up 43 prayer at the boneyard. I did some Mage Training Arena for Bones to Peaches, as well as things like Tithe Farm for early farming and Seed Box, which I would carry with me for almost the rest of the account up until this point. This is a tough decision to make on an Ultimate Iron Man because you are committing an inventory slot to something. And if the item is untradeable, then you will likely have it on you in your inventory until you decide to get rid of it or you lose it. I did lose my first seed box during the Desert Treasure 1 quest. I was in the Ice Plateau part when I think a troll pushed a boulder on me. To be honest, I wasn't looking at the screen. I was not being very careful. And I did lose my seed box, plank sack, as well as a boatload of seeds that I had accumulated through farming contracts. Did learn a good lesson about doing dangerous activities like questing while death banked, because if you do have items in a place like Hespori, you will lose them if you die elsewhere. And I'm happy to say that up until this point in the accounts, this is the only wipe that I had on my Ultimate Iron Man where I lost items, and it could have been much worse. And so that brings us to today. This is where the account currently is at. This is a majority of my items here. Most of this stuff can be stored in the looting bag. Keeping these for alks just for mage XP and money. These I'll probably either alch or use in Nightmare Zone just for additional range XP. Got this rune crossbow from an elite clue. It's pretty lucky. I didn't have to go into the wilderness for it. Magic shortbow, spent a lot of time and my first couple mil of gauntlet GP on getting 80 fletching, just so I could permanently unlock this magic shortbow. I can make one whenever I need. I can throw it away without being worried that I'll have to get another from hard clues. Zombie axe was a very easy grind. Couple hours at armored zombies, not a problem. This ancient staff from completing Desert Treasure 1. Before this Ultimate Ironman, I didn't really realize how much a pain this would be because it's very hard to get back if I lose this ancient staff. So it's a permanent inventory slot, to be honest. At least I can store it in the looting bag, though. This was my first Barrows item. I've only done a few Barrows chests here. I probably will get rid of this, but I have the bag space for it, so I might as well. I'm doing some Barrows chests in hopes to get some tank armor, so I can go to Perilous Moons. I will be telling you about my plan here for the immediate future of the account here shortly, but let me just go through some more stuff. 2 armor seeds from CG. Done a couple hundred CG now. I enjoy the content. I know it's the red prison, and I'm not really at drop rate yet, but I do enjoy the content. I like getting better at it. I've started doing tier 1 runs now, which has been very, very nice for my efficiency. I started out with tier 2 because my combat stats were about, base 80s. And then without piety, I'm sort of forced to use the staff and bow. So yep, 2 armor seeds, 5 weapon seeds, and 286 KC. Little unlucky, but can't complain too much. Yeah, so this is what the bag is looking like. We have lots of gems from shooting stars early in the account as well as gauntlet. I just finished cutting all my sapphires as I work towards 75 crafting. I will likely keep these rubies and diamonds both for the mounted dig site pendant as well as ruby and diamond bolts. But before I do that, I will need a source of adamant bolts. So maybe I'll go to Soul Wars for that. Not sure yet. These herbs are left over from my 70 herb lore grind. I did a lot of contracts, and so I have these left over. I will likely use these in Mastering Mixology. I have not tried the minigame yet, but apparently it's about double XP for these lower level herbs, so that's very exciting. I'm not sure if I will be using my Aventos. I really don't know how the minigame works, but I look forward to trying it and getting as much herb lore XP as possible, pushing towards 81 for Ceradoe and Bruise. These are unnecessary, I feel. Might as well get rid of them. They're just left over. I'm keeping the battle staffs. Like I said earlier, I do plan on going to Perilous Moons here soon, just for some more herb lore XP. So getting water orbs from Perilous Moons will let me turn these into a higher alch. I have 17 mil. I have some money in various coffers around the game, but this is all from gauntlets. So yeah, this is where the account's at. These are my major items. I will likely be keeping these, but if I were to get a BOFA, I would probably get rid of both of them. This I'll be keeping. This I'll be keeping. This I'll be getting rid of. So my account's in a good spot. Really, I am just here to grind some PVM. I'm just starting to get out of the early game, get into the mid game. Haven't really done any Perilous Moons or much of the Varlamore stuff at all. So I look forward to trying that out and maybe taking a different route for my accounts here. I do not have Barrows Gloves or a Fire Cape yet. I don't really see a reason for it. I love Slayer. It's one of my favorite skills, but it is so slow at early levels. I've really just used Tears of Guthics on it. Another thing is prayer. I hope Perilous Moons will give me some good prayer XP so I can push towards piety. But yeah, just doing PVM. But yeah, I look forward to doing PVM, updating this account, and using some supplies as I can. Like I said, I'll be cutting these gems intermittently, but as far as I'm concerned, these are nearly permanent looting bag slots, which is a little daunting for me. It's a lot of commitment, and something that I'm working to get better at is hoarding supplies. I would rather use up these supplies before I inevitably lose them in a wipe or something. I just feel really nothing is permanent on this game mode. Items are not permanent. Skills are permanent. So if I use a bunch of my herbs, to get 77 herb lore, that would be huge for the account. Having them sitting here in my looting bag really does nothing. So I'm trying to balance supply usage and my hoarding personality. Playing a regular Ironman, I tend to hoard as much things as possible. In fact, it's a lot of the fun of the account is having large collections of various resources and watching them grow. On an Ultimate Ironman, that is not advisable. I'm trying to break this habit. So after this first episode, progress videos on this account will be much more fluid and focused, but I just have a lot of information to convey in this first video, so I want to get it out here and just try to document as much of my journey so far as possible. I have a very well-defined plan of how to progress this account through PVM, and I really look forward to sharing it with you. I will now move on to the goals of this series and the future of this account. All right, so here we have this PVM Ironman progression accounts. Some of you may have seen this before. It's been going around. Shout out to the Ironscape Discord for the image here. But this is up to date post Araxor. So I'm just going to go through here and try to walk through some things, talk about my thought processes, and see where we're at. So starting off with the Amulet of Strength, the Rune Pouch, and Climbing Boots. Do I have these items? So I have the Rune Pouch. I do not have the Amulet of Strength and Climbing Boots. And this actually brings me to a good point I want to make regarding this chart here. It is for Ironmen, but not necessarily Ultimate Ironmen. So in my mind, there are different tiers for items on an Ultimate Ironman. Now, as you may have seen earlier, I have 70 plus crafting, so I surely can make an Amulet of Strength, and I have the quest requirements for Climbing Boots. However, I do not currently have them on my account, and these two are technically my best in slot for melee training at this time, but they're easily attainable, and I don't mind throwing them on the ground. So this is one tier where they're easy to get back, take a couple minutes max to get these two items back, but I also don't need to carry them with me. Now, moving on to something like the Ancient Staff, however, like I mentioned earlier, this is a pain to get back. It's a rare drop from Vedion. You get one after you complete the Desert Treasure quest, and after that you have to go find one yourself. So this Ancient Staff is something I do have in my looting bag, and I will have with me for a very long time. This can be checked off. Ivan Staff, I think I had one. I used it for the Saren fight, I believe, and then I upgraded it for the diary and dropped it on the ground. Especially with the recent Elemental Weakness update, this Ivan Staff isn't as core in the progression as it used to be. However, I do have it unlocked. Fighter Torso. This is another tier of item where for Ultimate Ironman they can store it in their house. So unlocking this item is nearly a permanent upgrade to the account. A nice melee strength body with minimal negative magic and range bonuses. So this is a good item to have. I do not have it on my account because I cannot be bothered to go to Barbarian Assault. We might get there eventually. Right now I'm more focused on moons though. A similar story with the Granite Plate body. Dragon Scimitar. So this is something I unlocked. I bought it right after completing Monkey Madness 1 and promptly threw my Gree on the floor, knowing that if I wanted to get a Dragon Scimitar again, I would have to go through the process of making a Gree. So this is something, again, I have unlocked, but I do not need it at this current time. I have the Zombie Axe, which in some places is better, some places it's worse DPS than the Dragon Scimitar, but for now, I've unlocked the Dragon Scimitar and I don't need it. Herb Sack, I don't see a huge use for it. Even when I was doing herb runs, it wasn't that big of a deal for me to have this in the inventory. So I kind of bypassed it, opting just to note the herbs on the Tool Leprechaun. Berserker Ring Eye. So this is something that I should go for, The earlier the better, I suppose, and I have the stats and probably the gear to kill Rex efficiently. I just haven't, again, because once I get the Berserker Ring, it will be taking up an inventory slot almost permanently. I will be using a Berserker Ring for almost all melee training and all melee combat in the future. So I just have kind of put this off. I don't need it yet. I don't need it right now, so I don't have it. Dragon Defender I got pretty early on, probably earlier than I should have. Similar story to the Berserker Ring, where just I got it because I was AFKing crabs and it didn't take too long, but since I did get this Dragon Defender, it has been a permanent inventory slot, and because it's untradeable, it is always on my character. Now, Barrow's Gloves is something I don't have. This is what I'll be going for here soon. As well as the Book of the Dead, Piety. Plank Sack I have enough mahogany points for, but I do not need it at this current time. Gem Bag is useless for me. This Dark Altar should be pretty easy to get, as well as this pool. These will require some construction training, which I will be moving on to here soon. So it looks like we are firmly in this tier, right around here. So we have the Knights of Knot, we have the Assembler, we have a Plank Sack, we do not have Piety or the Book of Darkness. This is where we'll start. We're not going to follow this exactly. I do not want to use this as a rigorous outline for steps I must take for my account, because I want the freedom to approach this how I want. So for example, I unlocked Mixed D'hide quite a while ago because the full set is storable in my house. I got 70 range months ago. Now this is Gommel's Hilt 2. This is something I'm actively working on, at which point I will go and get Void and then maybe complete the Western Diary for the Crystal Halberd. We'll see about that. These are things that I will approach in my own way. 69 Slayer is something that I just haven't really touched too much because doing Slayer is a pretty large commitment. So what this is advising me to do is to get 69 Slayer and then Chin Champa up to 70 range in the Monkey Madness tunnels. And then get Void, and then get these stats before doing the Gauntlet. Now, I've already ran some Gauntlet. I rushed Prifddinas, so I'm already working on this. I don't find it necessary to go in order, but this is a great guideline. And as you can see from this chart, we're definitely in the early game here of PVM upgrades. So I look forward to completing this more. I'm going to get started on this top row here and try to fill out some of the gaps in my early game PVM progression. Also, as you'll see, we go all the way down to raids, mega rares, the quiver, the Inferno Cape. So I'm really excited to see where this takes us. I look forward to, like I said, just chugging away here, getting great upgrades. Like something like Bloodbark is something I really want to do because it's storable, though it does have high skilling requirements. Some of these things are tens or hundreds of hours of RNG grinding, like the Full Crystal and Bofa, and some of them are quick. Some of them I already have done, you know. So that's why I'm looking forward to taking this at my own pace, using it as a guideline to track my progression as I move towards endgame PVM. So next video and all subsequent videos, we'll be using this chart as an outline to measure our progress, and we'll start by tying up loose ends in our early game PVM progression. And that's really all I have to talk about today. Please, if you have any feedback for me, just let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and we will see you next time with a new video. Take care.